Hello, everybody, and welcome to my predictions for the divisional round of the 2025-2026 NFL season playoffs. I already made my wildcard predictions, and, well, as I said, these are just my predictions for, the playoffs. I mean, it kind of comes with, these being predictions, so, I mean, you kind of guessed that. But anyways, I'm not going to try to waste too much time, and I'm going to get started with the first game of the division round that's being played, which is Denver Broncos versus Buffalo Bills. Specifically, Buffalo Bills at Denver Broncos, if you want to be a little more specific as to who's the home team and who's the away team. So, yeah. I'm going to preface this that, I have my biases, for all these teams. As said, the Buffalo Bills are the one who had the most biased for because I am a Buffalo Bills fan. So, yeah, so because of, I'm definitely going to be a little biased with my prediction here with, how I feel about this game and, how, I feel the Bills match up with the Denver Broncos. But in my opinion, I think the Buffalo Bills end up getting the win in the end versus the number one seed ranked Denver Broncos in a upset, although it's not a major upset. The Denver Broncos are only, as a 1.5 point favorites to win this game, and there is a reason for that, even though they're the number one seed, even this game is in Denver, which, once again, not an easy place to play in at all. And I don't think it's going to be an easy win for the Buffalo Bills. I think this is going to be a very, very, very close game. As I do think, once again, the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, match up pretty well against the Denver Broncos. And as I said, I think the biggest factor for why I'm choosing the Buffalo Bills to win this game is just the quarterback. Josh Allen has so much more playoff experience than Bo Nix. This is only his second ever playoff game, and his first playoff game was, ironically enough, against the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Now, to be fair, the Denver Broncos were in a lot less favorable position. They're a lot less, of a good team back in 2024. They were still good, they're good enough to make the playoffs, but once again, they were the 7th seed. They only barely squeaked in the playoffs in 2024. The Buffalo Bills were the 2 seed, so they had to go to Buffalo. And that Buffalo Bills team, in my opinion, was also overall just better than the 2025 Buffalo Bills team. So, as I said, the gap has closed a lot between these two teams. I think the Buffalo Bills are on a much more equal, playing field. As I think the Buffalo Bills are now the away team instead of being the home team. As I said, and I just, in general, think that once again, it comes to the two teams themselves. Once again, these two teams are much more like in 2024. The Buffalo Bills were easily the better team of the Denver Broncos. Like, even though it was still, pretty solid in 2024, it wasn't as good as it was in 2025. And the Buffalo Bills, were an even better team both offensively and defensively than when they think they are this year. Even if they are still pretty good offensively and still solid defensively, the gap between the two teams has closed a lot. But I still think the Buffalo Bills, as I said, in my opinion, are going to get the win just due to, once again, the playoff experience that this team has. Them having Josh Allen, as a them, coming in with some momentum, with them having, won their first ever road playoff game since 1992, specifically the 1992 AFC Championship was the last time the Bills have won a road playoff game. It's the first road playoff game the Buffalo Bills have won since then, and the first road playoff game Josh Allen has won as well since then, with him also getting his first ever official career winning career game-winning drive in a playoff game. Even though Josh Allen's been very, very good in the playoffs, very, very clutch, he's never technically had a game-winning drive in the playoffs until that Jacksonville Jaguars game and that amazing final drive they had to go and get a touchdown that would eventually be the game-winning one off of, that interception. And so that, the Buffalo Bills got was a Tre'Davious White coming in and, having great coverage on Parker Washington, and then, Cole Bishop just being there to get the interception, and after, the ball, going up in the air off the deflection and coming down for winning the game, and just, as I said, defense, as I said, ended up coming out clutch for the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. I think he hasn't really done too much overall, but once again, as a great coverage on Parker Washington to allow Cole to get the interception. I do think the defense is going to be definitely part of why I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win this game, is because even though the Buffalo Bills defense is not the greatest defense, ever, I think of all of the, AFC playoff teams, not the playoff teams as a whole, because we're talking the San Francisco 49ers and the Chicago Bears, I would say probably both have worse defenses, with the Rams being the team where I think it's the Rams. As I said, I'm unsure if they have a worse defense. I think you can make an argument for them. But I'd say they probably have a better defense. But like NFC, I think the 49ers and Bears both have worse defense. But there's the AFC, so I think the Buffaloes probably have the worst defense of any of the teams who, are in the divisional round. They definitely have a worse defense than the Denver Broncos and Houston Texans, and when it comes to the New Patriots, their defense, I would also say, is probably slightly worse. But the thing is they have the best offense of any of these teams, so that was make up for it. But going back to the defense, even though they have the worst defense, I still think the defense is going to be a big reason why I think the Bills are going to win this game. The Broncos, offense is not exactly the greatest offense of all time. It's a below average offense with, once again, a quarterback who, is in his second ever playoff game. This is his first home playoff game, which helps him out. And, he's definitely, got, some more weapons than he did last year. But overall, Bo Nix, as a quarterback this year, despite the weapons, is, in my opinion, a worse quarterback than he was last year. Like, Bo Nix, in 2024, was a, above average quarterback. And this year, I think he's a below average quarterback. Outside the fourth quarter, which the Bills got to watch out for, is so they cannot let Bo Nix go crazy and, clutch and Super Saiyan or anything like that in the fourth quarter, which is something he's done all year, where he's not been very good throughout the first three quarters. But in that fourth quarter, he becomes, one of the best quarterback in the entire league. Also, sorry about my dogs making noises in the background. I tried to do this when there was very little noise going on, but fortunately, when I'm setting up, there's going to be background noise. So, yeah. But, overall, yeah, like, as I said, they cannot allow Bo Nix to go and, as I said, to pick them apart in the fourth quarter, or about the entire game, but the fourth quarter, especially once again, Bo Nix is basically the AFC version of Cable Williams, where once that fourth quarter comes, he's going to be absolutely insane. So, not allow that to happen. And once again, I think the Bills' defense, will still do a solid job, and not allowing the Denver Broncos to do too much to him overall in this game, at least for the first half. And my opinion, but once again, it's that fourth quarter, that's where they got to really be on their A game, because once again, Bo Nix is going to play better in the fourth quarter. You cannot let them pick apart. So yeah, so I think we'll still do solid, especially with the return of Ed Oliver potentially. Ed Oliver's is the one if not the best Buffalo Bills defensive player, but he's been out for a majority of the season after he tore his pec back in a game against the Carolina Panthers all the way back in Week 8. He's been out for the entire season since then, but they finally took him off injury reserve. Going up to this game. And he might play this game, although I'm not 100% sure if he will play, or at least will play 100%. As I said, if I had to guess, I think he will play, but it'll be in limited snaps. But still, having him back is a big help for the Buffalo Bills offense. Mainly in terms of run defense, which I don't actually think the run defense is going to be, the biggest concern for the Buffalo Bills defensively this game, because the Denver Broncos don't really run it that much, and they have a backup running back because J.K. Dobbins got hurt for the entire year, unfortunately, with an injury around middle of the year. I don't remember specifically what game it was, but I know he had a season-ending injury, unfortunately, which sucks for the Broncos and just sucks in general. But, as I said, for the Bills, once again, that probably means they're not going to run it as much with R.J. Harvey, who is their starting running back after J.K. Dobbins got hurt. And because of that, it's overall going to help him out. In terms of, not having to worry as much about the run game. Obviously, it's still got to work because they're still going to try to run it. You can't just not, try to stop the run at all, because that's going to let big runs. But I think the Broncos are probably going to lean more into passing, which is where the Buffalo Bills exceed a lot more on defense, as their passing defense is really good overall. So if the Broncos get into throwing it a ton, that's going to be really good for the Buffalo Bills in terms of being able to stop them overall. It's going to give a chance for the Buffalo Bills offense to come out on the field, and in my opinion, lead to the most important matchup for this game, which is going to be... Oops, sorry, I bumped the desk that I have my gaming laptop on. In my opinion, though, the most important matchup for this game is going to be Buffalo Bills offense versus Denver Broncos defense. As I said, because that Denver Broncos defense is very, very fucking good. It is, in my opinion, the second best defense in the entire league, only behind the Houston Texans defense. And you saw what the Houston Texans defense did to the Buffalo Bills back in it was week as it's back in, I think, week 11 of the season. I saw what that defense did. It was an absolute menace to Josh Allen. Josh Allen had no time in the pocket, and even though he was able to get the ball off, it was usually throwing it to receivers who were very, very well covered. The Bills lost that game 20-19. This Denver Broncos defense is still very good. I wouldn't say it's as good as the Houston Texans defense, but it's still very, very good. And the Bills this season against really good defenses have struggled. They lost to the Houston Texans, as I already mentioned. 19 to 22. But they also lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, who also are a team who had a really good defense throughout the line. The defense again the win. And not their offense, because their offense this year was absolutely horrible, but their defense was really good, and the Bills also lost that game 12 to 13 off of a failed 2-point conversion attempt by Josh Allen, which was one of the few bad plays Josh Allen's had this year. Not a good play. The guy was wide open. It's unfortunate. But yeah, the Bills against really good elite defenses have struggled quite a bit this year. And in my opinion, that's going to be the biggest match of this game, is how good the Buffalo Bills offense plays against the Denver Broncos defense. Even though I don't think they're going to put up even though they're going to put up 35 points or anything against the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills offense, in my opinion, the Buffalo Bills offense is still, it was a really good offense. It's one of the best offenses in the league. Looking at all the teams left in the playoffs offensively, I think the Buffalo Bills, they're at least in the top three in terms of how good the Buffalo Bills offense is. They're, as at least top three. I would personally say the Buffalo Bills offense is probably the second best offense in the playoffs, only behind the Los Angeles Rams offense. They have a really good offense, the Buffalo Bills offense, and once again, even though they've been the best against very defensive teams, once again, they only barely lost both those games in the end. Now, those games coming down to the very final play in terms of who won. And once again, I think the Bills have gotten enough experience this year against teams with very good defenses to have finally started to figure something out in terms of a game plan. And once again, as I said, I think this is, especially with, as the Bills probably being more healthy for this game than they were in either of those games. These nights, especially because I know that, as I said, they had one of their linemen out for this game, and then they had, as I said, the other one get hurt early on into the game, which really hurt their line. So they're going to be a lot more healthy for this game, which will help them out. And am I saying, oh my god, okay, sorry for, I'm not good at pronouncing words sometimes. Yeah, but as I was saying, for the Buffalo Bills, I think, while unless their offense is going to go insane and put up 35 or 40 points or anything like that, I do think the Buffalo Bills offense will still play, very well against this, very good Denver Broncos defense. And once again, I think, it will put up probably around 28 to 31 points, if I had to guess, either right below 30 points, or right over. Which, in my opinion, if you put up that many points against the Denver Broncos, you'll probably win, because, in my opinion, it's just not good enough overall to be able to go and, put up more points, most likely. I mean, maybe I'm wrong once again. Bo Nix does go insane in the fourth quarter, but I think the Buffalo Bills offensive line, I think they score around 28 to 31 points. I think they will probably win this game and get the W in the end. As I said, once again, it's still going to be very scary and very hard to deal with. Bills, once again, they might just want to settle for points so they get the opportunity to settle for points. My dogs are making noise. Oh my god, come on, dogs! Why you gotta make so much noise? Come on! Yes, throw them out. That's my brother right there, and my brother coming to get this. I don't know. Is it my opinion though? The Buffalo Bills offense, once again, it's good enough to go, and as I said, I think deal with the pressure that's going to be brought on with the Denver Broncos defense, and I think we'll be good enough to win this game. So in my opinion, I think the Buffalo win this game in a very close game in the end against the Denver Broncos and upset the number one seed in the AFC. All right, next up, as I said, the second game that we have today for the divisional round is Seattle Seahawks versus San Francisco 49ers. And I think this is going to be another pretty close game, but I got the Seattle Seahawks in this one. As it's a very similar team to the Denver Broncos in a lot of ways, but in my opinion, the Seattle Seahawks are the better team. Their offense is overall better when it plays at peak. They have, the best wide receiver in the entire NFL this year, Jackson Smith-Njigba, or JSN. Probably just call him JSN, because not good at pronouncing things if you have watched me before. It's not my specialty. So yeah. But they have the best wide receiver in the NFL. Their offensive weapons are overall better than the Denver Broncos, I feel. And when it comes to quarterbacks, even though a lot of people do not trust Sam Darnold in big games, I think Sam Darnold is a lot better than people give it credit for. I've been the Sam Darnold defender for a while now. If you've seen me on my Twitter, you've seen me defend him. I think he's going to, play solid against the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think he's going to play, amazing or anything, but once again, I think he's going to play good enough and make the plays he has to win the game, which, for a team, this stacked, the Seattle Seahawks, I think, once again, even just a decent performance will be good enough to win, because that Seattle Seahawks defense is insane, and as well, the 49ers were able to do enough against, the Philadelphia Eagles offensively to go and win that game in a very close one. They won it, they won it 22 to 18, I think. Like, I don't want to crappy on the score of this game. I don't know. I mean, as it was a game I watched, and really happy the Niners won because I fucking hate the Eagles. But still, I don't know. Sorry, I'm crappy on the final score. But still, the Niners won that game. It was very close. But once again, that was up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are a team that, not only in my opinion, has probably a worse defense than the Seattle Seahawks. It's close, but in my opinion, they do have a worse defense than the Seahawks. But they also have a much, much, much worse offense than the Seattle Seahawks. This offense is way, way better than the Philadelphia Eagles. So, as I said, I think that definitely helps. Plus, they're also going to be hosting the San Francisco 49ers in Seattle, which, I mean, to be fair, they didn't make a difference for the Philadelphia Eagles. But, in my opinion, as I said, it's been a while since Seattle's had home play. I think there's going to be more fans there, and I think the overall helps them out slightly. So, yeah, now, in my opinion, I definitely think the San Francisco 49ers can still win this game. Like, I think they definitely can still win it. Like, their offense, even with all the injuries, is still a very solid offensive unit. Is still very good. If there were no injuries, it might be the best offense in the entire NFL. But unfortunately, they just have so many injuries, which really hurts them. And their defense, as I said, it's not exactly great. It's definitely, look at all the teams, in the playoffs in general in terms of which one has the worst defense. I would say San Francisco has the worst defense of any of the teams, who are in the playoffs. But I still think, once again, it still make, big stops. Once again, I still think it will do a solid job against the Seattle Seahawks defense, or not defense, offense. But in my opinion, once again, I just think that Seattle Seahawks defense is so good with all the injuries that San Francisco 49ers had. Plus, because how the last game went, where they couldn't even, do like anything on offense. The San Francisco 49ers only ended up putting up a whopping, I think, literally only 6 points. I'm not, once again, I'm not having the greatest job remembering some of these scores. Putting up 6 points, but I know they had only single-digit points. The San Francisco 49ers, because how badly they did against the Seattle Seahawks in San Francisco with George Kittle, who unfortunately tore his ACL, which is a big loss for the San Francisco 49ers. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game and win it. Once again, it's going to be a close game, but I do think the Seahawks will win and probably pull a win. I think they'll be very similar to that second Seattle Seahawks versus San Francisco 49ers matchup, and I think unfortunately for the 49ers, the streak of always going to the NFC Championship when they make the playoffs is finally going to end here. So yeah. All right, on to the third playoff matchup. The two playoff games we have tomorrow. We have beginning off the playoff slate tomorrow at 3 p.m., at least for me, on Eastern time, because that's the time zone I live in. We have New England Patriots versus Houston Texans. And like I said, the New England Patriots are pretty big favorites, all seem to win this game. They're as high as 0.5 favorites to win this game over the Houston Texans. A little one I see in most places is 3.5 favorites to win this game, which is things much closer to how close I think this game can be. But in my opinion, I think the Houston Texans are going to win this game. The New England Patriots did not impress me at all offensively with how they played against the Los Angeles Chargers. Drake May did not play good. Like, he just did not play good at all. As I said, and the only reason why the New England Patriots didn't win that game is the end is because Justin Herbert played even worse. He played abysmally. Neither quarterback played well that game. It just turned out that Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers offense as a whole, with that offensive line made out of hopes and dreams for the Chargers, as I said, had been worse than the New England Patriots offense and their offensive line, which, is actually, a real offensive line and not, something that I imagine existing but doesn't actually exist, like the Chargers offensive line. So yeah, as I said, but neither quarterback and neither offense played good at all for each other. Once again, the Los Angeles Chargers defense is a lot worse than the Houston Texans defense. Maybe not a lot worse, but it's definitely worse. Like, the Houston is literally the best defense in the NFL. As we were just talking about it earlier, when I was talking about the Buffalo Bills and how they did against it, and the Buffaloes have a better offense than the New England Patriots. To be fair, that game was in Houston, while this one's going to be in New England and Foxborough, which helps them out. But in my opinion, I just do not think the New England Patriots offense is going to do good. I think the Patriots offense could score as little as single-digit points this game, if I'm going to be real. I personally guess the New Patriots offense probably scores around like 14 to 17 points this game, but 14 to 17 points I don't think is going to be enough to win. Because even though the Houston Texans offense is not very good, and CJ Stroud did not play good at all versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, that defense, in my opinion, is so good and, can very easily get like an interception or turnover and, the other team's own side of the field, to the point where, even if the offense doesn't play good, that Texans defense can, so easily go and get a big defensive play to get the ball in prime field position for their offense to get any points on the board, whether it be a field goal or touchdown. And hell, even just scoring a bunch of field goals for the Texans offense might be enough to win if their defense plays good enough. And even though, once again, this is in Foxborough, which does help the New Patriots, I was not impressed with their offense at all. And while their defense did play solid overall, definitely that was actually the thing I was most impressed about with the New Patriots was how good their defense played against the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the New Patriots defense and how good it played against the Chargers is more of, I think it's overall more of a symptom of how bad the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line is and also how not great Justin Herbert is in the playoffs. Than it is, a symptom of the New England Patriots defense just being that good. So, in my opinion, I think the Houston Texans are the better team going this game. But even though this is on the road, I just think that defense is so good for the Houston Texans that Drake May will be able to do almost nothing. He's going to be under constant pressure, going to constant sacks. And I think the Houston Texans are going to have gained the win and upsetting the New England Patriots in Foxborough in the end. All right, and finally, the final playoff game of the divisional round weekend slate is Chicago Bears versus Los Angeles Rams. And I feel like of all of the games here in the divisional round slate, I feel like this is the game where I have the most conflicting, weird, odd feelings on. Because both these teams, I feel like, have been very up and down this season. The Chicago Bears end up having that insane comeback against the Green Bay Packers, which end up ruining my predictions for wild card a weekend for being perfect, because I predicted the Packers to win in the end. Which sucks because once again, I was really close to choosing the Bears, but at the last second chose the Packers, so it ruined my predictions for a wild card weekend. I was going, a perfect 6-0, end up going 5-1 in terms of my predictions because of that, which sucks. But I mean, that same comeback against the Green Bay Packers to win that game in the end, and I said, put some serious questions in terms of how, not how, but can the can the Green Bay Packers under this current regime with Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love be able to actually get it done in the playoffs, or are they doomed to just choke every time they get to the playoffs? I don't know. That's a different question. But Bears are able to walk out with that insane comeback win. Los Angeles Rams ended up only barely surviving against the Carolina Panthers. I was shocked at how close that game was. Once again, I said I'd be shocked if Panthers won. They didn't, but I was still really, really surprised that game was that close. Panthers fought really hard, and while they ended up losing in the end due to Matthew Stafford doing some magic on that final drive and going a great touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson for the win. And I said, I'm still very surprised how good the Carolina Panthers play. Because of that, it makes me wary about choosing the Rams. Because in my opinion, I think the Rams are the better team on paper. Even though they're playing in Chicago, I think they're definitely the better team on paper. As I think the Rams play pretty well in cold weather, despite despite the fact that they play in Los Angeles, which is not cold at all. And once again, they are a very well equipped team to go on the road and beat the Chicago Bears in the end in their home stadium. Even once again, even if it is in Chicago, and even if the weather is going to be very cold, which I think the Rams, as I mentioned, are already very good. I think they're a pretty good team in the cold. All things considered, considering the fact they play in Los Angeles and not cold at all. Although Matthew Stafford isn't the greatest in the cold, it is the biggest concern when it comes to how cold this game is. But this game might end up being the cold, though, with this apparently potentially being the coldest game in NFL history from some reports, which we'll see. If it is that cold, though, that definitely favors the Bears quite a bit, but I still think the Rams can still win in the cold. As I said, and once again, on paper, I just feel like the Rams are the better team, the more equipped team to go and win. But how poorly I feel like they overall played against, specifically how bad Matthew Stafford played compared to what people were expecting, compared to what I was expecting against the Carolina Panthers. That could just be the Panthers. Maybe they just have the Rams number for some reason, defensively. But still, I was shocked at how bad Matthew Stafford played. And so once again, how cold this game is. Even though I think the Rams, I think they're overall pretty solid in the cold scene. The Bears are a really great team in the cold because they play in Chicago where it gets pretty cold. And once again, Caleb Williams is also a lot better in the cold than Matthew Stafford, which is that's maybe his biggest weakness as a quarterback as a whole. Is not that great in the cold. And I'm going to do the cold over and over again, but once again, that cold could make the difference, as well as also the fact that once again the Rams offense didn't really look that great against the against the Carolina Panthers. Once again, it took one magical final drive on the win, and once again that was great, but still once again that Rams offense is just not very impressive. Each other put 34 points, but god damn, it was a struggle to get those 34 points in them. And that Bears defense, once again, it's not the greatest defense. It's very opportunistic though, and could definitely force some turns, especially in the cold. That could cause some problems to them. As well, how snowy and wet the ball is going to be due to the snow. Yeah. And once again, talk about the Chicago's offense. The Chicago's offense is very hit or miss. Sometimes it's absolutely amazing, sometimes it's absolutely horrible. But no matter what, once it gets that fourth quarter, similar to Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, well, they will play very well in the fourth quarter. Caleb Williams will become the Iceman, and well, exactly what this game is once he's becoming the Iceman. It's going to be a little literal here this time. He might literally be covered in snow by the end of the game with how cold and snowy that game is going to be. So yeah. But as once that fourth quarter, Caleb Williams becomes almost unstoppable, and that's going to be a big concern for the Los Angeles Rams and their defense, which not exactly the greatest. Like once again, and I say it's around the Bills in terms of how good it is. I say it's probably slightly better than the Bills in the end. I saying. Plus, it's also snow, which could help them with forcing plays. But I believe once again, the snow still overall the Bears in terms of the plays being more familiar with it, and also the defense being more opportunistic as a whole than the Rams defense. Overall, I think overall, as the Bears, and once again, I just say this is a game that could really go either way. And the Rams are the favorites by 3.5 points to win this game, but once again, in my opinion, this game feels like a crapshoot in terms of going. I think you can make a good argument for no. So you can make a good argument for either one of these teams to win. Like I think you can make an argument for Rams to win because their offense, its best is really fucking good, one of the best offenses in the league. If they get the playoffs, I think it actually is the best offense, as I already mentioned earlier. I think it's the best offense at absolute peak, of all the teams who are in the playoffs when their offense, once again, is at its best. Plus, and I say, they have the better coaching. Ben Johnson, very good head coach, but Sean McVay, he's debated the best coach in the NFL. Personally, I'd give that to Kyle Shanahan with what he's done with the San Francisco 49ers, which is also an edge, I guess, if the Niners come back to that game, but still, Sean McVay, though, still a very, very good head coach, better than Ben Johnson, in my opinion. I feel like the Rams are a little more equipped to play in more situations. And like I said, that defense for the Rams, I think, is overall more consistent and, usually better than the Chicago Bears defense. But the Chicago Bears are playing, in Chicago. It's snowy in Chicago, which definitely helps out the Bears. Rams not as good as the Bears in the cold, obviously. Matthew Stafford, especially, is not good in the cold. So, yeah. Don't know why I paused there. Yeah. The Chicago Bears is or maybe a bit more of a hungrier team. They're younger, hungrier, want to really prove themselves, which they kind of did against Packers. They have, I feel like, more momentum than the Los Angeles Rams going this game. And as I said, specifically in the fourth quarter, that Bears, team, both the offense and defense, to a lesser extent, but still the defense, are insane. Like that, like the Chicago's offense will absolutely, just start, rolling, dude, in that fourth quarter. And the Bears defense, while not as good as the offense, is still very, very also make big plays. So once again, I just feel like you can make arguments for, either one of these teams to win between the Rams and the Bears. And, once again, I think you can make a good argument for both. Personally, even though I think this is very close, I do think I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams to beat the Chicago Bears in Chicago, but this is very close. I think this game will also come down to the wire, and I think whoever wins will probably only win by like a field goal or something. Probably a very short field goal because it's going to be pretty hard to kick field goals in this way, but still. I think the Los Angeles win and, end up being the final winner of the final divisional playoff game for the divisional week. So that's it. Those are my predictions for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. I'm happy that you went and watched this video. I'll see, how accurate my predictions end up being and see how close it was. Give you my record next time when we do the championship games, and I predict those and tell you what my record ends being. Once again, it's 5-1 going in this week. The only guys wrong about last week was choosing the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears. So we'll see once again what my it's being at the end of this week. And I guess in a final note, as I said, all these games I want to go a certain way. The way I want them to go doesn't always match up with my predictions. The only game I really do care about, though, in terms of going away, is Buffalo Bills beat Denver Broncos. I'm really hoping and praying the Bills can beat the Broncos, man. Really hoping and praying. I think they will beat the Broncos in a very close one, but you never know until you know. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the division round. I hope you have a good day. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and goodbye.